Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another episode of After the Buzzer, show where I recap the NBA games from the night. And what a crazy slate of hoops it was. This is the first one where there's a bunch of games, and players are going off all over the place, specifically young up-and-coming stars. At the beginning of every season, one of the first things that I and many people I'm sure look for is who's going to be that breakout guy, who's going to take the next step, become that franchise player, go from non-all-star to all-star, all-star to all-NBA. And if tonight's slate was any indication, there are a lot of players who are ready to take that big time jump. So I want to get into those guys specifically. I'm going to talk about basically every game through the lens of those performances. At the end, I'll cover just general games that I didn't get to. Let's talk about it. Specifically, I want to start this conversation with the guy that I think is going to be in the center of this thumbnail, and that is Paolo Banchero. Paolo's been pegged as someone that could take an All-NBA jump after an All-Star season last year in a great series against Cleveland in the playoffs, and tonight he was insane. This was one of the best games I've ever seen from Paolo. 33 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, and a block against a team that's supposed to be pretty good defensively on 50% shooting in a blowout win. This one was really not close. They were up by like 30 in this game. The best part about it was the shot selection from Paolo Banchero. That's been one of the biggest complaints about his game, something that's really been holding him back. He settles for a lot of these tough mid-range jumpers, doesn't really attack and get downhill. When he is a freak of nature, somebody with his size shouldn't be as quick as he is, as skilled as he is, have as much touch as he does. He is a physical force, and tonight he was playing like it. He was attacking downhill, bullying guys, pushing people out of the way, and knocking down threes, something that he did at a really high level last season. Just an amazingly efficient game, picking and choosing his spots, setting guys up, rebounding, playing really good defense. Paolo was at his best in this game, and if Paolo's going to take an All-NBA jump and we continue to see more games like this, there's only going to be a short matter of time before we see him pop up into the top 15, top 10 players in the world conversation, and the Magic could really take that leap to the next level if we keep getting this Paolo. He was unbelievable, again, against a Miami defense that's supposed to be really good, so shout out to Paolo. He was amazing in this one, and for Miami, just not really there at all. Jimmy Butler wasn't very good. Bam Adebayo wasn't great. Nobody really performed at that high of a level. Sticking with number one picks in the Eastern Conference, Cade Cunningham had a great first game with this new team in place. He finally has some spacing with Tobias and Tim Hardaway Jr. He has a new coach in JB Bickerstaff, and it opened up the game for him so much. Cade was great tonight. 28 points, 5 rebounds, 8 assists, and a steal on 44% shooting. That number would have been a lot higher if he didn't start off like 2 for 8 or 1 for 8, but really as you got into the second half, Cade found his rhythm, his groove, and he was just picking apart Indiana left and right. 18 points alone in the third quarter. It was a miracle that Cade finally had space to operate, to be himself, to pick apart the defense, supporting cast members. I cannot wait for this Cade Cunningham season. I have been a staunch defender of Cade, saying that it's not his fault, that he's a really good player. He's just been put in terrible situations. This, in my opinion, is an example of what he can do when he even has a morsel of support, because it's still not that great of a situation in Detroit, although I will say this was easily the most fun I've had watching a Pistons game in a long time, excluding the games where I was like, oh, maybe they could tie the all-time losses record, which is a complete different type of fun. I'm glad Cade had support out there. I'm glad he really hooped. He just was doing everything you want to see from a big guard. He was taking advantage of his size. The playmaking was there. This is going to be an all-star season, or at least an all-star caliber one. We'll see if the Pistons are good enough to get him that nod. But yeah, Cade, continue to be a believer. I think he's going to prove me right this season. For the Pacers, Alperen really struggled in this one, but Miles Turner propped him up, and Alperen did hit the dagger 3 to go ahead and close this one out. TJ McConnell was really good. Benedict Mathurin and his return was great. Yeah, the Pacers are just the far better team, so the Pistons don't get a win, but way better on-court product for the Pistons compared to anything we saw last year. Another team whose on-court product looked way better tonight were the Charlotte Hornets. I've stuck my flag in them on Twitter and here on the channel, saying that this is a team that I am believing in, that is going to be way better this season if they can stay healthy. And you see the results here. Tonight they played the Houston Rockets, the team that a lot of people think could take a jump to like the top 6 in the West to be a playoff team. And they have this great defense, and the Hornets, specifically LaMelo Ball and Trey Mann, picked it apart. LaMelo, I have been saying, is going to have an All-NBA season if he can just stay out there, and you saw it tonight. 34 points, 8 rebounds, 11 assists, a steal and a block on 50% shooting, hit 4 threes. Unbelievable performance from LaMelo Ball. He is one of the best players in the world, one of the best guards in the world when he is actually out there, and finally he is out there. knock on wood that stays the case, but at least in this game, picking apart that Houston defense relentlessly, and then Trey Mann giving him some support as well. As a Thunder fan, I'm really happy that Trey is in a spot where he can actually get a chance to operate, where he can explore his game, because it was never going to happen with OKC. They just reached championship contention way too fast. And tonight, 24 points, 6 rebounds, and an assist, 50% shooting, 4 threes. Great game from Trey. The shot creation, the space creation is ridiculous with him. He's got so much potential to be a force in that backcourt alongside LaMelo Ball, and you see it in this game. Again, taking down the Houston Rockets, coming back from down 18. I can't even remember if I mentioned that, and that was without Brandon Miller playing a lot of this game. No Mark Williams in this one. Grant Williams played great defense, and Alperen Sengun, who did overall have a monster game in the box score, 25 points, 18 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 steals, and a block, shot 10 of 22. But specifically in the second half, he was getting stonewalled by Grant Williams. He really struggled up against him, and they needed a lot more from him down the stretch. Overall, I think it was a pretty good game, but definitely not the best second half. So yeah, shout out to Grant Williams for doing stuff like that. This is a Hornets team that, again, I think is going to be way better than people are expecting this season because they have more talent. They've got supporting pieces. I like the coaching they have over there with Charles Lee. I love the way this Hornets team was playing. They're not going to be like a top 6 seed, but they will be a playing team at the very least. Mark my words, especially if LaMelo and Trey keep playing like this and seem to be blossoming into one of the most fun young backcourts in the league. One more Eastern Conference guard we need to talk about is Cam Thomas. This feels like it could be his big breakout season, establishing himself, because the Nets are going to be really bad. It is fully and completely his team now, and he responded. 36 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, 52% shooting, hit 7 threes in this game. It was a back and forth one against the Hawks, who people anticipate to be way better than the Nets. The Nets are a pretty popular pick to finish at the bottom of the standings, but Cam kept them in this game. He is an absolute bucket. I know not a lot of people are going to watch the Nets this season, but please, if you get a chance, at least watch the Cam Thomas highlights, because he is a pure bucket getter if there was one in the league today. Love his potential on the scoring end. Defensively, there's a lot of work to be done, but if, again, you just want to see someone put up points, Cam's going to be that guy, so shout out to him. And on the Hawks side, 2 players with great games in their own right. Onyeka Okongwu, who everybody has been waiting for to break out for the Hawks over the course of the past few years. It just continues to feel like a matter of time until he takes that starting spot from Clint Capella. This was a game that maybe he made the statement that it's time. 28 points, 8 rebounds, 1 assist, 3 blocks on 11 of 12 shooting. And a lot of it was just catching lobs from Trey or finishing down low getting dunks. But that's really all you need to do. When you have a playmaker like Trey Young and some solid shooting options outside of him, all you have to do is play good defense and finish around the rim. That's something that Clint Capella has really struggled with, especially over the course of last season. Okongwu was amazing tonight. I hope we see more of this. I hope he gets more and more opportunity and eventually takes that starting spot, because I want to see more OO and Trey Young minutes. The chemistry there is insane. Trey had a great game as well. And then Dyson Daniels in his first game as a Hawk, a guy who's a sneaky MIP candidate. 15 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 5 steals, 1 block, 50% shooting from 3. The defense was there. The 3-point shot was there. If those 2 things continue to be as good as they were tonight, it's going to be impossible to keep him off the court for very long. He's going to have to be in that starting lineup. And his evolution has a chance to make the Hawks a way more competitive team this season than I think a lot of people are projecting. If the Hawks are going to be a threat to make the playoffs, they need this Dyson Daniels. They need this Onyeka Okongwu. I hope that continues to be the case, because they were playing a really bad team tonight. But I have faith, and having Trey Young there at the helm is part of the reason why. I said this in a recent video, but still one of the most underrated players in the entire NBA. One of the most disrespected stars I've ever seen. And finally, one more guy that I continue to have a lot of stock in is Evan Mobley. I'm waiting for the breakout. He was my favorite prospect in his draft class. Tonight was a big game for him. 25 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and 3 blocks. Hit a 3, 9 of 14 shooting, and that was all just in 26 minutes. Now, they were playing the Raptors, who are going to be good this season, but even still, he was just completely dominant. And the most promising part, in my opinion, was there was a lot of self-creation in there. A lot of attacking off the dribble, starting off above the perimeter, running into the paint, dribbling around guys, finishing through contact forcefully. Mobley was really, really good. This feels like the offense that you need to continue to see from him if the Cavaliers want to take that jump and be a real contender in the Eastern Conference. He was putting everything on display tonight. All the reasons why I really loved him in that draft class, why I continue to believe in him. The defense was still ridiculous. So shout out to Evan Mobley. I hope he continues to do this. And those were some of the biggest breakout performances tonight. Like, there were a lot of young stars who really went off. There were more players than this that had big games, but those are the guys in specific that I got to watch a lot of. If there's anybody else that I didn't mention, let me know down below in the comments. And now let's talk about some of the other games. Probably the best game of the night was Suns versus Clippers. It was a back and forth battle that went to OT. First game in the Intuit Dome, which, by the way, looks amazing. They have that wall behind the opposing basket in the second half where you have all these fans cheering. They're going crazy. There's like standing room room. They've got a lot of props. They had these Chuck the Condor chickens that they were waving back and forth. And I mean, it was working. They got Kevin Durant to miss 2 free throws in a single trip to the line. That's basically unheard of. It felt like a college atmosphere there. I'm going to be at the Intuit Dome at some point this season to make a video there. So I'm really excited to check it out, but the atmosphere was amazing. Kevin Durant said it was the best arena he's ever been in. James Harden said it was insane. And there were some big performances to match it. Harden put up 29 points, 12 rebounds, and 8 assists. It unfortunately came with 8 turnovers and just 35% shooting, really because he started off terribly from the field. He could not buy a bucket. As the game continued on, he got a lot better. But this is the problem when you don't have Paul George anymore and Kawhi Leonard is out with injury. They're asking a lot from James Harden, and he's been able to do it in the past, but he's just really not that player anymore, and he doesn't have a lot of supporting pieces. So he did everything he could, but it wasn't enough to get a win. 25 from Kevin Durant, who really turned up late. I think he had 7 at halftime. Bradley Beal had 24 points. Just 15 from Devin Booker, who ends up fouling out. And it wasn't because he shot terribly or anything like that. He just was not really involved in the offense that much, nor was Kevin Durant for the first half. For some reason, they were having Yusuf Nurkic out there like he was Brook Lopez. He took 4 threes in this game. It seems like there's a lot to be ironed out with this team still. They're still figuring out who's going to fit in where, who's going to take what shots, especially now looking more to like Monte Morris and Tyus Jones to set the table. That's going to be a bigger concern and something they have to really build chemistry with. Now, shout out to those 2 guards. Neither one of them had a single turnover tonight, which is something they're supposed to help with. The problem was the rest of the guys had 22 turnovers, which is abysmal. Kevin Durant had a lot. Devin Booker had a lot. They've got to be better. And it's the beginning of the season. Things are going to be sloppy. But that was the big reason why the Clippers stayed in this game, because they were playing really good defense, but also just a lot of big unforced errors from the Suns, who do get the win, but it's an ugly one. Sticking on the West Coast, the Warriors obliterated the Blazers. A lot of guys had good games, but Hield specifically went crazy. But the one thing I want to note is that the Warriors played a 12-man rotation. There were 12 guys out there before garbage time. When the game was close, guys were rotating in and out, not playing a lot of minutes. Steph didn't have to do that much. And I think that's ideal when you have a lot of talent in the depth that the Warriors do, and you don't want to really tax Steph Curry. Try to make that work. I don't know if it's really going to work that much against really good teams, against a bad team like the Blazers, probably. But Steve Kerr said that's the plan going forward. They're going to continue to run out 12 men. We'll see if it sticks, but I just want to note that because it was really interesting. And the Grizzlies and Jazz game was also really good. Lauri went crazy. Zach Edey had his debut, ends up fouling out. But Jay Huff, UVA legend, shout out to him, had a really good game in the absence in a lot of minutes of Zach Edey. John Desmond Bane both went for 20 plus. Ja had a big bucket towards the end of the game to go ahead and close this one out. 27-2 from Santi Aldama. Really fun game. Also, Bucks Sixers was semi-close. It would have been a lot better if, PG and Embiid were playing, but Dame had a 30-piece. He looked really good. Maxey was emptying the clip out there, shot 10 of 31. Good to see him putting up a lot of shots with those 2 not playing. That should be the case, but they just didn't have enough. Shout out to Gershon Yabusele, who I thought was really good in this game, gave them some good energy, was down low fighting for loose balls with Giannis Antetokounmpo, was grabbing offensive rebounds. I like the way the Sixers looked, even though they end up losing pretty convincingly against a good Bucks team. The fact that they were even semi-competitive for a lot of this night, despite Maxey shooting terrible and no Embiid or Paul George, I think is pretty encouraging. Like the way the role players played. And lastly, there's Bulls Pelicans. I don't have a lot to say about this one. No Zion because of an illness, but Brandon Ingram had 33 points, 23 from CJ McCollum. The big news, though, is Dejounte Murray seemingly has fractured his hand. The Pelicans are just cursed. I don't know what it is. They just can't keep guys on the court. It's always freak injuries, too, like a fractured hand or not a lot of wear and tear stuff. It kind of just happens to them relentlessly, so we'll see how long that keeps them out for. And yeah, for the Bulls, Zach LaVine went crazy, 27 points, building up the trade value, I guess. And those are my thoughts on this first, again, big day of the NBA season, specifically those big performances from the young stars, the new up-and-coming faces of the NBA. I'm really excited by what we've seen from those guys. I think we see a lot of breakout players this season. Let me know down below which of the performances was your favorite. What were some of your big takeaways from these games? Also, I didn't even mention that Nick Claxton and Dyson Daniels fought and Claxton got ejected. A lot going on this night in the NBA. But yeah, let me know your takeaways, your thoughts down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. I appreciate y'all watching. I'll see y'all later. Real one, say back.